Hello, my friends, and welcome to Philos-Fighter, a series where I talk about various topics that don't fit into the channel's Philosophy of Games series. And today, I want to ask you to think about what sort of things you do when you are feeling miserable, sad, lonely, whenever you feel bad. For me, I have a particular game that I like to play when I'm feeling at my lowest points. And that game is this war of mine. It's something I've alluded to in other videos in the past, but I haven't talked about in a very long time. And that's probably because I haven't felt a need to play the game in a very long time. I haven't been at that place where I was seeking comfort from the game. I play this war of mine whenever I feel as though I am not being respected or understood. When I'm feeling bad about things, sad or lonely or unsuccessful or a burden to others, various different emotions. And I want to explain a little bit about where I'm coming from as to why that game in particular is important for when I need to engage with those feelings. Now, if you don't know about the game, this war of mine is I guess you could call it a survival horror. It's not so much horror as much as it is a survival game with tragic overtones. It is a survival tragedy in which you need to create fortifications for a house, collect materials, and keep the few people that you have with you alive and safe. And I think that is a feeling that a lot of people, especially this year, can sympathize with. But it's not for the specific subject matter that I want to highlight it, because the game has been out for years, and I've been playing it for years. You know, there's that old saying that misery loves company. And that saying makes sense as a word of warning, in that when people are feeling sad, some people have the compulsion to go out and try to make other people be as miserable as themselves. It's sort of the nihilistic reflex. When a person is having a crisis of meaning or a crisis of value in their lives, they will often the first thing they do is go out and try to get other people to feel as bad about the thing that they feel bad about, or have a similar sense of feeling lost or feeling hopeless, rather than trying to overcome it. People tend to wallow in that feeling for a little while. On the other hand, however, I find that people often try to use company as a means of comforting someone who is feeling sad or lonely or lost. Not being there for the person themselves, not actually being company to the person. And I'm speaking abstractly, I'm saying the person in third person. I'm actually talking about myself, in that when I have sought comfort from people when feeling sad or lonely, I would often be told, well, you know, you're not the only one. I think everyone in our generation is feeling this to some extent, or lots of people are struggling with this thing that you are struggling with. And that has never once made me feel better. The idea that there are thousands of other people who are also sad and miserable has never been something that made me feel better about being sad. It just makes me feel worse that those other people are suffering in that way, And it does nothing to help me. It doesn't solve the problem that I'm currently having. It's more like saying, ah, you're feeling bad. Well, get ready, because that's going to stay that way for a long time. That's not something I want to hear. That's not comforting. What I really want when I go to someone with an emotion, when I'm seeking that emotional comfort for that negative feeling I'm having, is not to be given a solution, and it's not to be told that other people are having the same kind of problem. It's not to know that the suffering is common. It's just to confirm for myself that it is understandable, that someone can acknowledge that the reason I feel that way is correct. That anyone would feel this way in my circumstance. And in particular, and I don't know if this is something specific to my experience, I want someone to reaffirm that I am not blameworthy for the circumstance, that I do not deserve to feel that way. Because a lot of the things that get me down, get me in that hopeless mood in the past, are things that were pretty much entirely out of my control. They usually surrounded times where other people have assaulted me or threatened me with an assault, which has happened 12 or about 12 times in the past 7 years. So I'm averaging 1 or 2 assaults per year ever since graduating college. And oftentimes those assaults also came with being fired from a job because I didn't have seniority and they didn't want to make trouble. Things that legitimately had me down, had me depressed. But I was often being met with, well, what are you doing to make these people want to fight you or hurt you? What are you doing to make them attack you? And I never felt that that was legitimate. And yet, because I was getting assaulted in a way that was so much more frequent than other people were experiencing, a lot of people immediately assumed that, oh, I must be doing something to cause other people to pick fights with me. And that's never what I wanted. And because I was getting that from so many different people, from people I considered friends who are no longer friends now after many incidents of being blamed for the poor actions of other people who happened to have disliked me. I was finding that there was really no way to commiserate that feeling, no way to feel understood. And that's where tragic or sad games came into play. That's where The Last of Us came into play, in that the acceptance of a sad and tragic scenario as the norm, and just having to be in that space where people have accepted it gave me that feeling of commiseration. Felt like the person saying to me, that is a horrible circumstance, and you have every right to feel bad, because look at all of these people, these virtual people, in a horrible circumstance, and they feel bad, and that's just how the world is for them right now. And at the same time, because it was a game, because there were goals that I had to set for myself and tried to achieve, and would continue playing in order to try to have a successful ending or reach the end at all in some way, it was also informing me through play that even when you're just feeling terrible, and for a completely legitimate reason, you still should and can work towards a better future, a goal, an improvement of some sort, to make your situation better in whatever way you can. Which is not something I got from other people in that time of my life. I got from other people, here's your solution, you should have done this all along. Or, let's figure out what's wrong with you and make you better. You don't deserve to feel bad because it's your fault. You don't deserve sympathy because it's your fault. And to a certain extent, I could understand that if the situation was the case that a person was being idiotic, purposefully or recklessly, wantonly, causing their own problems. I guess it's something that has to be evaluated in a case-by-case scenario. But just telling someone that it's their fault and they're wrong and bad, I don't think will ever have the effect of actually getting a person to change, getting a person to behave differently. But actually commiserating with them, helping them feel valid, and then showing them a means to make progress, to improve. I think that can have an actual, tangible effect on a person's state of mind and their overall perception of themselves and what they can do to have agency over their situation. Especially in times when the thing that is harming them, when the thing that is causing their misery is external, is out of their control, is not a matter of agency. I don't know of any other games that have that feeling or do that for people. This War of Mine is the game that does that for me. And I'm really thankful to have not been in a place for a very long time that makes me feel like playing that game. But I'm very grateful that I have something to go to if it ever is the case that I don't feel connected with and I need something to validate my feelings and spur me to take action even in the midst of my lowest points. So I guess in the comments, if you could suggest other games, or at least tell me of games that you found to be satisfying or helpful in this way, something that validates those negative emotions, the sad emotions, but then also spurs you on and encourages you to keep going and find your own solutions with your own actions. Because I think games like that are very valuable. Games like that are how you demonstrate to people who look at games as toys to be something more than toys, to be something significant and important to people. It is one of the most essential, or at least I guess you could say fundamental benefits of playing a game that I find unique to the gaming media, in that it can simultaneously validate and encourage with an engagement that is not based in fun or enjoyment, based in something completely different, in understanding misery and still creating engagement, creating action, But yeah, that's the guess that's the video for this week. Kind of a down subject, I understand. I just felt like I wanted to say something because I feel as though I've never really made a concrete example of my experience and why I find that experience profound with relation to that game, to this War of Mine specifically. And I also thought that in the current times, it might be important for people to have a source of commiseration that they can reliably go back to, especially since, with social distancing, it can be harder to find a person to actually share that feeling with. And a game is always ready to be played, no matter what the circumstance. It would be very weird and atonal if I were to suddenly shift into very excitedly saying all of the different YouTube sentences that a YouTuber is supposed to say at the end of the videos right now. So instead, I'm just going to say them normally. Hit the subscription bell if you would like to see other videos on this channel as they come out. Also, hit the like button so that the YouTube algorithm shares the video with other people who might be interested. Share the video with your friends if you think they would enjoy it. Share it on internet forums such as Reddit or any other forum that you use. I'm particularly thankful that you made it to the end of this video, considering how blue the whole thing turned out. Stay true, my friends, and here's a breath of fresh air.